Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the series so far. If you're ready for the next video, you are in for a treat. I am speaking with Adam Wade today. She is a certified coach, norm breaker, D&D player, and loves changing how people see themselves. She quit the corporate world after 20 years in IT and operations leadership, where she saw firsthand how broken systems nurture burnout, fear, doubt, and toxicity. She believes that everyone deserves to love who they are and advocate for themselves. She takes a fearless and playful approach to challenging clients so they see how incredible they are and make the changes they long for. She recently co founded Coaches and Dragons with Jared Turner, where they take inspiration from role playing games to make a personal development experience like no other. Oh, you are going to absolutely love the conversation that I had with Autumn. It's so real and raw. She gives specific examples of the moments that she realized she was in a toxic environment, what she did to get out, and she also has advice for you if you're currently dealing with it as a manager or a professional working in a toxic workplace. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and as always, feel free to leave a comment below to join the conversation. All right, let's go ahead and get into the video. Well, hello, Autumn. I am so excited that you're here today. I know this conversation between us has been a long time coming, so thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today and share your experience with everyone.
Yes, I'm so excited. I think one of the things that probably any other coach who ever talks to me here is like, are you following Chelsea? Chelsea's doing the
Oh,
work. You got to follow her. I love what you're putting out there. It's so important. And I think a lot of times people can feel like they're alone in this or think that it's just them and maybe people don't understand and you are out there seeing people and helping people feel seen and it's just amazing work. So I'm so excited and honored to be here with you.
oh, well, thank you, Autumn. I appreciate that. That is the goal and the mission. So I'm glad that people are seeing it, and I'm glad that we were connected through our work.
Yes,
So I'm grateful
me
for
too.
that. Yes, but I'd like to start off our session today and just ask you what made you say yes to coming and sharing your experience today?
Oh, I mean, we have to. We just have to get it out there and talk about it. I think it's a scary thing to talk about sometimes. It feels very vulnerable. And there's still a lot of, trauma that comes from that where you start to second guess your experience of things. But I felt so alone early on in this. And I think it matters so much for people to see that they're not alone, that other people experience this, to look for the signs, and hopefully they can find a way to take that and be empowered to take action for themselves. The other thing that I really am hoping to get out of this is I spent a lot of time as a senior leader, and I'm really hoping that other leaders and other managers can see the impact of inaction and hopefully can take inspiration from that to show up to create safe working environments for their colleagues and their employees. So that's why I'm saying yes. Also, because I trust you a lot, right? I think there's not a lot of
Thank
people I
you.
would go and have this conversation with, but I see what you do. You hold space for people so beautifully, and you are unapologetic about any of it. So I trust you. I'm here with you.
Ah, thank you. Thank you, Autumn. And I know everyone watching appreciates it too. And I know that you're a very transparent person as well. So as soon as I came up with this idea, I was like, I have to talk to Autumn. So I'm just grateful for you. So
I'm
let's
so
go ahead.
glad.
Yes, let's go ahead and dive right in. I'd love to learn more about your toxic workplace experience.
Mhm.
And do you mind sharing the industry that you worked in when you experienced a toxic workplace?
Sure. So most of my career has been in the IT space. The industry I was in was financial services, but really a lot of what I do is IT operations, strategy, and leadership. So that's where most of my experience has come from.
Okay. And I know for a lot of people, they struggle with pinpointing exactly when that moment was that they realized that they were in a toxic work environment.
Mm.
But can you remember when you realized, hey, this is toxic. This is not healthy.
That's really hard to know for sure. I remember a moment where I felt, oh, something's really wrong. And then I think I was able to trace back to other kind of red flags. But the moment that always stands out is like, oh, not good stuff is happening
Mhm.
is I had finished this work that I felt was incredibly exciting. We had people come in from all over the globe to come in and do this work together. And we came up with some really great options. And I remember being so excited and going in to share that with my boss who was sitting there and like, oh, we did really good. This is going to be great. I'm excited to put it all together. And they tore me apart in front of other people. And it was like, it
Wow.
was nothing that I could have done was right. I felt like every decision I had made was the right one. And to have somebody just all of a sudden pick it apart, that logic wasn't there anymore. And I was like, wait a minute, something's different. And
Mhm.
it was not something I had experienced before, but it helped me to take a step back and look and say, wait a minute, something isn't right here.
Mhm.
Because I think before
That's
a lot of that had been things where when I would get feedback about stuff or when there would be pushback about something, it would feel like, oh wow, I really did mess that up. Oh yeah, they're probably right.
mm,
Oh, you know what? I didn't ask this question or I didn't do this thing. But in this moment, I knew that I had nailed it. I knew I had done the
yeah.
right thing. Um, and so it didn't make sense anymore.
So when that moment happened, it sounds like it was in front of other people, correct?
Yeah.
So did anyone, I'm just curious, did anyone speak up or say something or come to you and say, "Hey, Autumn, things are going to be
No.
okay"?
I mean,
Mm,
no, not really. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people around. There were like a few people that were sitting there because by the time I went there, it was after hours. And so there were just a few people that were around working. Um, but no, I mean, and I think with this, I can feel it like even
mhm.
it's so interesting how quickly all of this can come back, even though it was years ago. But
Yes.
it's like I remember in that moment, like I lost composure. It was such a shock to go from feeling so excited. And I realize now I was really excited for my leader to say, like, that's great. I had been
Mhm.
looking for that kind of confirmation that I was doing what they were looking for. And to have it go so wrong, come in a high and have it go so wrong. I remember pausing and really trying to collect
Mhm.
myself and starting to push back. And I had to walk away, but I was visibly upset. And I remember
Mm.
thinking, like, someone's going to come and check, right? Like,
Right.
something's going to happen, but even in that moment, even when it felt like something was wrong, it quickly pivots to, wow, you're completely unprofessional. I can't believe you would let your
Mhm.
emotions get the better of you. Like, it turned into I was the problem because I let
And
myself get upset.
right. And that's the hard part about toxic work environments that people don't often realize is
Hmm.
we end up taking that stress on ourselves and thinking that something is wrong with us when that's not the case because your feelings were valid in the moment. And
Hmm.
I just wish that someone would have been there and been
Hmm.
brave enough to come check on you or even say something.
Yeah.
And I hope that in the future, more people are encouraged to protect each other and to check on
Hmm.
each other because we're really here to take care of each other. And we need
Yeah.
to get back to doing more of
Hmm.
that.
It is. And I think that's was part of the interesting thing too, is because there was somebody who was very close, like was sitting almost next to me when
Mhm.
it all happened. I remember going in a few days later and talking with that person to try to level set because things seem so often like, hey, so you saw that conversation, right? Like, what do you think? And that was when there started to be these moments of like, oh yeah, well, like that's how it is. Yeah, they do that sometimes, but it was kind of one of those of like, that's how it is here, right? I've been here a long time. That's how this leader is, and that leader is, and that leader. And so it was kind of while you would sit there and say, oh, there's a systemic problem here. The reality was, again, I'm sitting here saying, everybody else is fine with it, and I'm having a problem with it. What's wrong with me?
Mhm. And
Hmm.
that is so dangerous when people start to say, that's the way they are, that's the way it is, because that's what
Mhm.
keeps that cycle going.
Yeah.
So, since you didn't have the support of your coworkers or any other leader in your organization, it sounds like, who did you tell? Who did you talk to get all this off your chest?
Um, I would talk to my husband sometimes,
Mhm.
but even that was hard because again, like I think part of how this particular situation manifested itself is it it was kind of like toxicity by a thousand little paper cuts, and you'd be gaslit in a way to think that it was you. So anytime you would think about talking about it with somebody, it felt as if you were just saying, "Hey, so like my manager just like wants me to do my job." Ugh. You know, that's how you kind of
Mhm.
felt if you were going in, is like, "Oh, my manager's upset because I'm not working fast enough. They're bothered because I didn't do this in the right form." You know, it always felt like, well, you're just complaining that your boss is asking you to do your job. And so it was really, really hard to talk about it. Where all of a sudden it started to open up is when I started to notice other people on the team experiencing it, started to see a pattern. And that's where a lot of us that were experiencing this kind of solidified as a family unit. And it
Mhm.
sounds really strange sometimes because I want to be really careful about people who have experienced physical and emotional abuse in their
Yes.
relationships or their home life, but it really felt like there were some parallels in there of,
Mm.
there were some of us sometimes who would say, "Oh, we need to go and protect our sibling," right?
Mhm.
Because we can see this coming. And so you'd get in front to try to protect. I can take it today. Let me take it today. But
Mhm.
in that moment where you started to see, oh, other people are experiencing this too, we did start to kind of release the vent to each other. But even then, while you understand, oh, this isn't okay, what's at least it's not just happening to me, it was still all of us as a unit
Mhm.
together. And I think for it still was hard to say, like, this is not okay overall. We need to go do something. So
Right.
we acknowledged each other, but still felt stuck. And like maybe it was still us.
You bring up a really good point. And for people who are watching, I know they're going to be thinking, well, what can I do if I see that happening? Or what can I do if that happens to me? Or how can I help
Mm,
another coworker who's dealing with it? So, Autumn, what advice would you give? What did you want someone to do for you in that moment? And what would you suggest that someone do if they witness that
mm.
behavior?
It's go in and say, what is happening is not okay. We see this, and what's happening is not okay. Like that would have been, that eventually happened, but I had to do the work to make that happen. Um, but I remember the moment that somebody kind of confirmed outside of our group, like, yes, this is not okay. Like, what's happening is not okay. Yes, I sit 2 aisles away from you and I hear it. It's not okay. And being like, oh my gosh, you see that. There is so there's so much power that comes from the moment when you realize that you are not making it up and somebody validates your feelings and your experience. So it's just showing up and saying it is so powerful. And I'll say, I eventually got myself out of the situation, um, and several others did too, but the company didn't necessarily take care of it. Right. And so
Right.
there were still like a lot of people who were potentially in place with this. And I remember somebody reached out to me, hey,
Mhm.
and I knew immediately what was happening. And that's when like I showed up as that person and I saw the impact of what happens when you do it, because you knew you just need it. So going in and immediately saying, I see you, what you're feeling is valid, and I need you to know that everything that this person is saying to you, to others about you, is not true. You are this, you are that. And it was just trying to offset the damage that was starting to be done. But just having the
Mhm.
opportunity to say, I see you and I believe you and I hear you, and it's not okay, and you're not alone, you
Yes.
know?
Absolutely. And those words are so important. And that's really
Mm-hmm.
what we need when we're going through that
Mm-hmm.
validation. and a listening ear and some comfort and encouragement. So I
Yeah.
love that you said that.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that you left that environment. So
Mhm.
I'd like to talk more about that. When was the moment that you realized I need something new? And when did you decide
Mm.
I'm ready to
Oh.
go? And how long did you stay? All of that.
Well, it's like it's weird because it's one of those things that's like both good story and bad story at
Mhm.
the same time. It's like it kind of came to a head with this person. And I remember in that moment standing firm and deciding I'm never gonna be what this person wants. I'm never gonna be content in this space. I can't do it anymore. And I just kind of stood firm and said, enough. What do you want to do?
Mhm.
Like, what do you want to do? And I think in that moment there was a like kind of forced them to acknowledge the situation of like our relationship and how it was going to go. And so I quickly started looking for something else. And I think what was really interesting is I remember in that moment thinking it had gotten to such a point where I was like, nobody's going to want to hire me. Before I went into this, I was confident. Like people, I
Mhm.
think there are a lot of people who don't know that I've been through this. And I think if anybody
Yeah.
of them watch it, I think there are a lot of people who would be shocked to hear me say that this person had me completely not believing in myself, feeling like I was worth nothing, should do nothing, shouldn't touch anything. Like I didn't think I was going to be able to get anything. I'm like, who's going to want to hire me? Who's going to want to do anything? And it was amazing how quickly I was able to find something else. And I think that's when I started to see, like, oh, no, I still was me. I still was doing a thing, and people still did see value. And so that was such a great moment to be able to find something internal with people I had been working
Mhm.
with in that experience, even, and have them say, like, we see you and we want you, and we're excited to work with you. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not a piece of crap. I'm not a total piece of crap. I'm worth
Right.
something. You want to work with me? Okay. That's awesome. And so, you know, that was helpful. I stayed in that world for another couple of years. Still hard. And
Right.
the analogy that I would use a lot about kind of being in that, because I'm still in the same organization, is it's like if you're in a
Mhm.
really serious relationship, you're living together and then you break up, but you're
Yeah.
both still living in the same apartment building. It's like I might see
Yes.
you in the lobby.
Yep.
Right? And that's really hard. It was really hard to get on a Zoom call, a group Zoom call, and see my abuser there.
Right. Because it's like a abusive relationship. That's exactly what it
Yes,
is.
incredibly triggering. At any point, this
Yes.
person could do any, it doesn't matter. It like, it was so triggering. There's so much trauma that was tied to it. Um, but I think after separating from that, I
Mhm.
remember the moment I was released, the moment they said, you should start going and looking for something else. I remember like you couldn't like in that moment I felt
Mhm.
powerful. I felt unstoppable. I felt like there was this thing of like this person can't do anything to me anymore. I remember how
Mhm.
good that moment felt, and that
Yes.
just told me how scared I was of this person,
Mhm.
even though I didn't know if I was going to get something else. Even though I thought
Yeah.
potentially my career was over, I was still this like, what are you going to do? You can't touch me.
Right.
You can't do anything to me anymore. Like, I've already just said I'm walking out the door, and it was, that felt so good in that moment. It just, Chelsea, like, there are a few things in my life that have felt as good as like taking that back. Um, yeah.
I love it. And your face lights up even now
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about leaving. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that because it's so important for people to see because these toxic environments and abusive managers, they will suck the life
Mm-hmm.
out of you and have you second guessing yourself and just drained. But
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that you felt
Mm.
so powerful after you were released and you're still smiling. And
Yes.
I absolutely love that. So I'm just curious, whenever you left, did you
Mm-hmm.
do an exit interview at all?
No. Well, okay.
Okay.
I mean, ish. So I think this is
Okay.
part of the thing that beyond beyond the direct manager, beyond the person that created the really awful toxic work environment, that me and a lot of people were in. The thing that is most devastating, the thing that completely rocked me, it wasn't so much in that moment, it was kind of within the next year when I started to realize it was how many people knew that this was going on,
Mm,
how many people had been impacted by this, how many people also behaved in this way, but how far up
mhm,
senior leaders, people, and all of these systems that were meant to create a safe work environment, they all, like, so many of them knew that it was happening and did nothing. That hurt more than anything else. If you go to my LinkedIn, one of the things I say is I'm an ex
mhm,
corporate apologist. I loved being a leader. I loved helping to simplify corporate messaging to my team to help them
mhm.
understand why businesses would make certain decisions, that because change is hard and
Yeah,
sometimes it
yeah.
makes sense. But like, I remember like it never would have occurred to me that if senior leaders knew that this type of abuse was happening in their workplace, that they would not do anything about it. Like I would have
Mhm.
been like, no, because once they know, like I just believed it.
Right.
And girl, when I
Mhm,
realized that's not the world, that hurt more than anything else. That was my
yes.
whole life. And I felt like, who am I if I can't trust my leaders, if I can't trust these
Mhm,
systems, if I can't, like, how can we even be here? Why are you, and
right.
all of a sudden, like, it was hard to be in any town. It was hard to hear any leader
Mhm,
talk to me because
mhm,
I was like, I don't believe you. I don't believe anything
right.
anymore. And and that was so hard. The number of women that I talked to who had left their career path because of this person or because of other people that were in a similar situation, like, devastating, devastating. And to know, like, you're never going to get these companies come in, they were never going to acknowledge what happened to me,
Mhm.
because if they do that, it puts them at risk, right?
Right. It makes them do the work too. They actually
Yeah.
have to do the work. Yep.
Yeah. At the end of the day, cases like mine would be really difficult to prove.
Right.
So there's not, it's not, it doesn't become a problem. They don't have to, it's hard, it's messy, it's noise, and nobody has time for that. But they certainly
Mhm.
can't acknowledge it. They certainly can't say, hey, I'm sorry, I see you, which puts all of the burden on us as colleagues, which is why, like, as soon as I
Yes.
found out it was happening again, I was super careful to not reach out because I didn't want to all of a sudden have it be like, oh, Autumn's stirring up stuff. But
Mhm.
it was kind of a, hey, if other people are experiencing this stuff and they ever want somebody to talk to, you send them my way.
Mhm.
And it was just to be able to have somebody say those words to them of like, hey, I'm on the other side of this, I'm still working, but
Mhm.
what you're seeing is real and it's valid, and I see you and I'm here with you. Like, it was always going to be your colleagues. It was never going to be
Mhm.
the leaders. They
Right.
can't. The company doesn't want them to do that. And that's so hard.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's what again goes into like why I want to have the conversation today. It's like there were some managers who did show up, right? And did say like,
Mhm.
"Hey, yeah, it's not like it meant something to have them say it. It doesn't do anything,
Right.
but it still meant something to us to have it be seen."
Let's talk about managers. And for managers who are out there and they realize that their work environment is toxic and they're witnessing poor behavior from other managers, what would you suggest they do?
Speak up, be brave and speak up. It's going to be scary. It's going to be really scary to do, and it's going to rock the boat, and there are going to be people who are going to want you to shut up.
Mhm.
But it's speak up, do it, you know, in private and in public. Do both. If you see it
Mhm.
happening, show up for the people where it's happening to and see them, show up for them, help to be a support for them. But that is not enough. You have to be able to go in and use your voice. The reason all of this stuff was allowed to happen for so many years,
Mhm.
95% of the people that I talked to when this would come up, people would be like, "Oh yeah." That's a ridiculous amount of people,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes part of the norm. Just because a whole
Yes.
bunch of people around you are accepting it doesn't mean it's okay. So that'd be my advice, is like, don't leave it on the people who are being hurt to be the ones to step up and use their voice, because it's so hard to use that voice. Like, show up and be there and use your amazing, beautiful, loud voice to help make this a place you want to work in, that your
I,
kids would want to work in, that you want your
oh,
siblings to work
yes.
in, you want your parents to work in. Like, would you want your kid to be in that environment? No. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
show up and make it a beautiful place to be in.
I love that, Autumn. And for the professionals out there who have just started a role and they realize that their environment is toxic, what would you say to them and what would you suggest?
um Talk about it. Talk about it however you need to. Like, you got to get it out of your head. This is probably a little bit more Coach Autumn talking too, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really like, you have to get it out of your head. I have a coach, I have a therapist, I have friends.
Mm-hmm.
And if it stays in your head, it just gets more toxic. You have to be able to talk to people, and talk to people who are not experiencing it with you. It can be
Yes.
easy to just get caught in the spiral. You have to go to the outside to start talking about what's happening, to like get back to reality. And no,
Mm-hmm.
you absolutely have a way out.
Yes.
You are amazing. You have value. You will be able to find
Mm-hmm.
another job. There are so many other options, and you will be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, amen to that. And here's another one for you too. I meet a lot of professionals who they start these jobs, they realize they're toxic, and they believe that they have to stay there for a year. You've
Mm,
heard that. Stay at a job for a year, otherwise it
no.
will look bad on your resume. What do you say to that?
No, absolutely not. Like, as soon as you find out there's a problem, start looking.
Get
Like,
out
if
of
you
there.
can quit,
Yep.
do it, but like, as soon as you know there's a problem, start looking. You don't it If you see the red flags already in the honeymoon period, no. It's not going to get
Yep.
it's
It's
not
not
going to
going to get
get
better.
better than that. Yeah, it's not going to get better than that. And I want to, like, there's so many people out there who are these beautiful people who say, like, I look, I can roll with it, I can adapt, I feel like I can influence and manage up really well. Like, I'm sure that you can. I'm sure that you can go through and you can do a lot of work. And what I would say is, it's probably not worth the effort. It's probably not going to be
Right.
worth all of the costs that you're going to have to pay to try to make this a place that's worthy of you being in it.
Mhm.
Like, it's just not worth it. So go and find that thing. The other
Yeah.
thing I would say is, friends don't let friends go to toxic work environments. Do not let
That
this
part.
happen to people. I definitely found out after the fact that there were people who were like, well, I just didn't know. Maybe things had changed. I wanted to let you discover it on your own. I was like, all
Wow.
I heard were great things. It would have been wonderful to just, like, I feel like if I would have had
Yeah.
just one moment of like, hey, heads up, you know,
Right.
that
Exactly.
then I would have started to be a bit more cautious with what I was looking at. But yeah. Um, I guess that's another note in for managers too. Managers, leaders, like,
Mhm.
help your people get out. Help
Yes.
people get out. Help people find new jobs. If you know they're stuck in a toxic space, get in
Mhm.
there. Recommendations on LinkedIn, advocate, help them find something, right? If you can't change
Yes.
the experience that they're in, help them get out. Show up.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
1,000% agree. And I know the answer to this question, but I just
Hmm.
want to drive it home for everyone watching. And I want to ask you, Autumn, how is life today?
It's amazing. Life is so good. Life is, and I'm so glad you asked, because I was like, I'm not getting off of this call with Chelsea without talking about what's on the other side of this,
Yes.
right? Which is like, I'm here doing the work that I love,
Mhm.
and I, I still deal with some of the trauma from this, right? It still comes
Mhm.
up,
Right.
but life is great. I'm happy. I get to help people, and I can't complain with it. I think the other thing that's a little strange, but it's honest,
Mhm.
is, had that situation not have happened to me, I probably would have stayed in the corporate world until until
Mhm.
retirement.
Yeah.
I probably would not have had the bravery or the push to go and do something new for myself that I felt worthy of. So I would would never have wanted to go through what I went through. But
Mhm.
I am here on the other side, able to look at that and appreciate the journey for where I am today and for what I'm able to do for others after being through that experience. So I'm happy. I'm here and I'm ready for
Yes,
people to just like tear down this toxic crap all around them. I'm over it.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And your happiness and your spirit is just so contagious. So I just love that you shared that. And before you leave today, I know you are doing incredible work with your coaching agency. So can you talk a little bit more about what you do and who you help?
Sure. Yeah. So I call myself a mindset coach. I'm really passionate about helping people see that they're freaking amazing, awesome, sparkly unicorns, and then be able to use all of that to advocate for themselves. So that's what I love doing. I really love coaching people who maybe have never even heard of coaching before. So people who think, oh, that's just for the executives. Nope, it's for you. Call me,
Mhm.
call Chelsea. We're here for you. But yeah,
Yes,
it's going and bringing this empowering moment to people for them to see how amazing they are and and that they're worth everything that they want for themselves.
I love it. You are making a huge difference out here, and there's so many people who need you. And for those of you who are interested in working one on one with Autumn, I will make sure to leave her contact information in the description below. Autumn, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience and sharing encouragement and words of wisdom. I just appreciate you being here. I adore you. You absolutely know that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chelsea. This is such a wonderful experience. I'm so appreciative of you.
Awesome. And we will see you in the next video. So thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Autumn, and I'll leave her contact information below.
Bye.
Hi again. Thank you so much for watching my interview with Autumn Wade. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you got inspiration and motivation and some encouragement from our conversation today. And again, if you want to work one on one with Autumn and she will help you get your sparkle back and really live the type of life that you are called to live, unapologetically and fearless, I will make sure to leave her contact information below in the description. And please, again, join the conversation. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your experiences when you discovered you were in a toxic work environment and what you're going to do to get out of it. Please take care of each other in the comments. Be nice, encourage and motivate each other. And most of all, speak up for each other. All right, until next time.